No doubt you've heard of the famous no-load tone pot. Well, today I'm going to show you something pretty cool called a dual-load tone pot. What makes this special is that it can be configured as two completely independent controls inside one pot, and it can also be configured for a no-load function as well, which makes 3 options in one pot, which is pretty crazy. Now, as far as I know, no one out there actually manufactures these pots, so if you want one, you're going to have to modify an existing pot. Luckily, this is pretty crazy easy to do, so you can turn a standard pot into a dual tone pot or a whole bunch of other really cool, unique things. I'll show you how to do that a little later on. Okay guys, if you like these sort of videos, please hit that like button because it just lets me know that you want me to make more of this sort of content. Right, so I just want to show you quickly first how a pot sort of works. If I draw a lug here and a lug over here, these are the 2 outer lugs of the pot. And then this is a carbon track, or a resistive track that joins those 2. Now my finger represents the wiper here, the middle. And as you can see, the further I get away from this side, the more resistance builds between these 2 points. And when I'm in the middle, there's about the same resistance between these 2 points if we're using a linear taper pot like we're using today. And then the closer I get to this side, there is less resistance until these 2 points are connected. So the wiper and this lug are connected. So you're just really sliding the wiper up and down this carbon track, and that is essentially how a pot works. Just getting closer to either end, and the closer you are to that end, the more effect that end will have on this wiper. So just say if this side is going to ground, once this side touches here, it's completely muted and it's going to ground. If this side is your signal over here, like with a volume pot, when you go all the way to here, you're going to have no resistance between this lug and the wiper, so you're going to be going straight out to the next stage. We're going to take advantage of that today by cutting this section here. So you're going to have 2 separate and completely independent variable resistors from here to here and from here to here. Okay team, today we're going to be using a 500k linear taper pot. Now that'll give us 2 250k linear style variable resistors. You can use an audio taper pot that will give you some really interesting variations. I'm kind of keen to try out some of those, to be honest. To get into this pot first, we have to lift these 4 tabs on the front. I like to use a pair of these because they just get under there nice and easy. Cool, now those are off. Now it comes apart really easily. First this collar comes off. You don't really have to remember which way it goes around. Then the wafer. That's the bit we're going to be modifying today. You can see the carbon track there along connecting those 2 outer lugs. Then we've got our center shaft with the track that the wiper runs along. We can just leave that in there for now. So this is the bit we're going to be dealing with here. We need to score a line exactly at halfway. So I'm going to get out a little sharp knife. You can use a Stanley knife or something like that. That'll work. And I just score a little line. And then I use a triangle file or something similar, like one of these little needle files, it follows along that score. Now, one thing you can do is you could score 2 lines here, one here and one over here, and that will create like a little carbon island, I suppose, that when you're in the middle, this pot will essentially be connected to nothing. It'll become a no-load tone pot. So you'll have this side as a variable resistor, no load in the center, and this side is a variable resistor. But today we're just going to score the center. I mean, you could even score it in a different spot. There's a lot of options here. Now that I've done that, next, I'm going to get my multimeter out and I'm going to test. So all I've got to do is touch these 2 sides and I get no reading on my meter. That's perfect. That means that is done perfectly. So now it's time to reassemble. You'll see inside the pot there's like a notch on the inside of the casing. That always goes to the top. So this sits this way on here. This is pushing down on here. I like to use a pair of pliers just to push these back on, keeping it nice and tight. And that's it. That pot is ready to go now. So now it is a dual load tone pot. Now, as far as application goes, there is a heck of a lot you can do here. I'm going to show you with the overlay on screen in the next section, but we can put 2 different tone capacitors on each side to have 2 completely different tone controls in one pot, plus a whole bunch of other really cool things. I'm going to set this pot up inside my 5-way switcher just so I can show you a few options. So my Plus members on my 4th wall page are going to get all the diagrams for this for free today. I've got 5 options here I'm going to show you using this switcher that I use often on this channel. Now those diagrams are also going to be available in my shop. If you just want to support the channel, I'll put a link below. The first option I'm going to be using today is a dual tone control. So on one side of the tone control, you've got a 47 nanofarad capacitor, the stock standard Strat capacitor. On the other side, I'm using a 10 nanofarad. Then that's more like a bit of a presence control, I suppose, or just a gentle sort of tone control, but it's both on the same pot. Next one across, we've got a standard tone control again, but on the other side, I've put a passive overdrive circuit, which is quite fun to play with, and it's cool being able to have it completely isolated on that pot there. Next one along, probably my favorite one, I've got a mid-cut circuit, and then on the other side of that, I've put that same sort of presence roll-off that I did in the first circuit here. Next one along is really interesting. I've got the same sort of presence control on one side, and then on the other side, I'm using a piezo disc. Now, this works like a capacitor, but it also, depending on where you install it inside your guitar body, will pick up the body resonance, so you can actually bring in and out the acoustic sort of qualities of your guitar and maybe get some sort of feedback and things like that. It's going to be really exciting. Only problem is I've got it inside the box. I would have loved to have installed that straight into the guitar. And lastly, really cool one is called a dual mid-focus control. So I've got two separate capacitors on either side. And what they're doing is when you roll to 0, it's going to be shifting that pickup's resonant peak. It kind of gives like a mid boost, but really all we're doing is we're shifting the pickup's natural boosted range of frequencies, its resonant peak, a little lower. And that gives that sort of mid-focus type sound. One thing I should have done, and I think I would do next time, is combine that mid-cut circuit with the mid-focus circuit so you could have one on either side. Hey guys, I'm just editing this together now and I realized I didn't explain the box to you guys. What I've done is I've disconnected the tone control inside the Strat here, and I've essentially moved it to the box so I can show you all 5 of those options with these little switches. It just makes it easier to show multitude of things in real time. So, you know, obviously you're going to be installing this inside your guitar when you make one yourself, but it's good to be able to hear them in real time and on the fly. Anyway, let's get back to it. Let's not muck around now, let's get into it. So here is my stock sound. This is it engaged. That's the 47 nanofarad. Really nice. It's nice having those two options. I quite like that 10 nanofarad capacitor in there. Okay, next one along. This is our usual tone cap again. Rolling off. This side is the passive overdrive. So that's actually quite cool. The one thing you'll notice is there is a bit of a volume drop when using a passive overdrive. Okay, next one along. My favorite one. So I've got like that same presence control light cut on this side, which is really nice. You should really consider that as just a straight up tone cap. And then you've got mid scoop. Full mid scoop here. That's actually pretty cool. And see, I could kind of almost hear there where we crossed over that little divide that we made. Okay, next one along. This is tone cap again on that side, but this side's that piezo disc. Listen to this. It has a really interesting roller, but listen to this. Because it's stuck to the side of this box here. Obviously it would be cool sticking it somewhere inside your guitar, especially close to where the bridge is here, because you're going to actually pick up the guitar acoustically and it's going to blend it in with your pickups. This last one's the mid-focus. This is the one I think would be paired really nicely with that mid-cut control. Something you'd use more at the extremes. Oh, that's really cool. That's the more aggressive one, and I put a different option on this side. I really like that one. So this is where they're off. That's where they're on. Really like that. That's really cool. That's a very handy control to have. Now, a couple of honorable mentions. Putting that no load circuit in the center would be a fantastic idea, I reckon. That would be something I'd definitely do if I was going to do this one again. The other thing you can do is use one side of it as a blender mod, like blending in and out either the bridge pickup or the neck pickup. It's quite a common mod. The other one is using it for a spinner split, like with humbuckers, you can dial in and out the other coil so you can get that split sound, or you can dial back in the other coil for the full humbucker sound. That would be a cool one to add on. And there's a whole bunch of different series options. I'm just thinking things off the top of my head right now. There's just so many things you could do with this, but us using it in series, so bass cut mods, things like that. There is a lot you could do here. One option I have seen for this sort of control before is using a really high value pot, like a 1 meg pot, and not cutting that wafer, just using a standard 1 meg pot, but hooking it up in the same way with the same options. Now, my only problem with this is if you've ever used this configuration with a 1 meg linear pot, the taper is just awful on each side, you know, from 5 to 1 and from 5 to 10. The taper is just horrid. It's just, everything is bunched up at one end because that pot is so big. In the middle, yeah, you don't get a lot of bleed through, but it's almost unusable to me. You don't get all of the nice shades and variation you can get. I really love hidden mods like this, ones that are inside your guitar, but only you know that they are there. I do get the odd comment where people say, why do you put so much time into this? Why don't you just spend that time practicing guitar and getting better at the instrument? And I mean, that is valid. I love playing guitar. I put loads and loads of hours into playing the guitar, but doing this other stuff, tinkering around with guitar circuits and sculpting it to exactly how you like it is just a blast for me. It's super fun. It's just like someone who's really into cars. They might love driving cars, but they also might absolutely love working on engines as well. I mean, I'm sure you can relate to someone like that in your life. Anyway, guys, I hope you really enjoyed this video this week. I had a blast making it, and have a great week.